The chamber smelled of ozone and old blood. Ambassador Ethan Cross stood at the center of the Galactic Council's judgment floor, a vast obsidian disk suspended above a planet of cold gas, and he was not afraid. He had faced hostile delegations before. He had brokered truces between species that breathed acid and species that communicated through ultraviolet seizures. He had spent 11 years in the black, learning every handshake, every bow, every chemical pheromone that passed for diplomacy among 47 civilizations. None of that mattered now. High Counselor Kale Veyron rose from the central throne, his silhouette tall and angular, the bioluminescent crown of his species pulsing a slow, contemptuous violet. The Veyron family had held the council chair for 6 generations. They were not accustomed to being told no. Ambassador Cross. The translator rendered his voice in flat, precise English a deliberate insult. They had learned humanity's language specifically to deny humanity any advantage in interpretation. The Terran Compact's petition for Tier 2 membership is rejected. Earth is classified as a threat organism. The vote was unanimous. Ethan did not blink. On what grounds? You are too young. Too aggressive. Too unpredictable. Kale Veyron waved a 4-fingered hand as one might dismiss an insect. Your species has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. You have already initiated contact with 11 sovereign systems without permission. You have introduced 43 biological contaminants to protected habitats. And your military production, he paused for effect, has increased 600% in the last decade alone. The Council does not negotiate with weapons. Ethan let the silence sit for a moment. Then, those biological contaminants were medicine. We were responding to a plague on Keshri Station that your Council refused to acknowledge. And our military production increased because 3 of our colony ships were destroyed without warning in the outer reach. We later learned it was a Council-authorized culling. Kale Veyron's crown pulsed a darker shade. Those colonies were in restricted space. They didn't know. Ignorance is not a treaty. Ethan Cross looked around the chamber, at the dozens of alien faces watching from tiered galleries, species who had bent knee to this council for centuries, who had handed over their autonomy in exchange for protection and trade access and the comfort of being told the galaxy had rules. He felt something settle in his chest. Not anger. Something older than anger. Then let me be very clear, he said, so there is no ignorance here. I am authorizing you one final opportunity to reconsider. The chamber rippled with something between amusement and offense. Kale Veyron straightened to his full height. You are a diplomat. You have no authority to threaten this body. I'm not threatening. I'm informing. Ethan clasped his hands behind his back. Earth has been watching this council for 70 years. We have catalogued every member species, every supply chain, every system of governance, every military installation within range of our jump drives. We came here asking to be equals. We would have been content with that. You are not equals. No, Ethan agreed. We're not. He never got to finish the sentence. The Arbiter-class drone emerged from a concealed panel in the floor. Kale Veyron had clearly planned this regardless of how the conversation ended, and the beam it discharged was instantaneous. Ambassador Ethan Cross was dead before his body touched the ground. The chamber was very quiet. One of the junior delegates from a small species called the Myrith, Joe, a young researcher who had spent 3 years filing observation reports on humanity for the Council's Xenological Archive, stared at the body on the obsidian floor and felt something crack open inside her. She had written those reports. She had described humans as curious, resourceful, and worth watching. She had recommended engagement, not extermination. The Council had filed her work under supplementary and never read it. She looked at Kale Veyron. He was already sitting back down. Already moving on. In the gallery, a human attaché named me, a communications specialist who had accompanied the delegation as protocol required, sat perfectly still. He had watched the drone fire. He had watched Ethan Cross crumple. His face showed nothing. His hands were flat on his knees. He was already composing the message in his head, the message that would travel by quantum relay back to Earth in approximately 9 minutes. Diplomat executed. Council hostile. No treaty possible. Initiating Emergency Protocol 7. Me stood slowly. A council guard moved to intercept him. He looked at the guard with an expression the guard could not read. Humans were difficult to read, which was one of the reasons the council found them so unsettling, and said, in perfect galactic standard, "Touch me and you will become a footnote." The guard hesitated. Me walked to the transport bay and was gone. Earth received the message in 9 minutes and 14 seconds. The response took 48 hours, not because humans needed time to decide, but because they needed time to move. The New York Defense Compact, headquartered on Titan Station, activated within the hour. Admiral General New York, the only human commander who had ever fought and won against a council proxy fleet, convened her war council before the sun had set on Earth's eastern hemisphere. She had been expecting something like this for 6 years. Her fleets were not stationed where the Council's intelligence suggested. The Council's intelligence was, she had privately noted in her last strategic memo, adorably wrong. The first strike was not against a military target. It was against the Council's deep space relay network, 41 communication nodes that the member species relied on for everything from trade routing to emergency broadcasts. The nodes went dark simultaneously, and 4 civilizations suddenly found themselves unable to contact each other, unable to coordinate, unable to even confirm what had happened. In the silence that followed, humanity spoke clearly. A broadcast went out on every frequency, translated into every language the Council used, delivered by a woman named High, Earth's new diplomatic voice, appointed in the 12 hours since Cross's death, who had a voice like cold iron and eyes that had seen the footage from the judgment floor 17 times without looking away. My name is High. I represent the Terran Compact. Ambassador Ethan Cross was executed by the Galactic Council for the crime of asking to be treated as equals. We want you to understand what that decision has cost you. We are not asking for a seat at your table anymore. We are building our own. Every species that has been diminished, exploited, or erased by the Council is invited to speak with us. Every species that has been told their world is restricted space, we are listening. To the Council, you called us unpredictable. You have no idea. Kale Veyron watched the broadcast in his private chamber. His crown had not stopped pulsing since the relay nodes went dark. His advisors were presenting projections, fleet estimates, strategic analyses. He was barely listening. He had executed a diplomat. It had seemed, at the time, like the cleanest solution. A statement. A demonstration of the Council's authority. What he had not accounted for, what none of the Council's xenologists had accounted for, because none of them had read Joe's reports, was that humans did not process loss the way other species did. Most civilizations, when faced with a demonstration of overwhelming power, recalibrated. They negotiated. They submitted. They survived by bending. Humans bent like compressed steel. They came back harder. Joe appeared at his chamber door, still in her observer's row. He looked at her with an expression that was meant to be dismissal. You should read my reports, she said. The ones you filed away. Section 4. The part about how humans respond to the death of their own. She paused. They have a word for it. Vendetta is the old one. But the word they use in their military doctrine is simpler. Kale Veyron said nothing. Attrition, Joe said. They will not stop. That's the part you missed. They don't fight to win. They fight until the other side stops existing. She looked at the blank screens where the relay nodes used to be. Ethan Cross told you that you had one final opportunity. He was right. She left him there, in the dark and the quiet, with 47 civilizations waiting for orders that the shattered network could no longer carry, and somewhere beyond the Council's reach, humanity's fleets moving like a cold tide through the black, patient and precise and absolutely endless.